in the middle of our dinner.
That's wonderful. All right, there we are, live on YouTube. Welcome to Thankful Thursday. Good morning, y'all. Turning the mic over to you.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone in the room. We've got Cher and Dove and Sharon and Mickey and Lynn and I'm Lori, or I'm called Lori. I'm not really Lori. This lesson is great. It's the longest lesson in the book. We could probably take a month on this lesson. It's one of my absolute favorites, and of course, I think it's everyone's favorite. And when it says, if I defend myself, I am attacked, it actually goes into defending the body and also making plans for your day. So it has two major themes that I can see. And I'm going to start in the middle, paragraph 11. A healed mind does not plan. It carries out the plans that it receives through listening to wisdom that is not its own. And Ken says, many course students think they follow this principle because they ask Jesus for everything. Yet they unknowingly fall into the ego's trap because they ask him their question and therefore can receive an answer only on their terms. The very fact that they ask for something specific, such as physical healing, a parking space, money, a relationship, limits the answer they receive. It is the arrogance of thinking they know the problem and then demanding that Jesus solve it for them. That is why he cautions us against asking for specifics, as in this revisited passage. And this is from the Song of Prayer. The secret of true prayer is to forget the things you think you need. To ask for the specific is much the same as to look on sin and then forgive it. Also, in the same way, in prayer, you overlook your specific needs as you see them and let them go into God's hands. There they become your gifts to Him, for they tell Him that you would have no gods before Him, no love but His. What could His answer be but your remembrance of Him? Can this be traded for a bit of trifling advice about a problem of an instant's duration? God answers only for eternity, but still all little answers are contained in this. And Ken goes on to say, asking Jesus for specific help is not sinful, but it does limit his answer, as he cautioned Helen in this message shortly before she began to scribe the Song of Prayer. We repeat its central point here, which underscores what was to come in what is now the pamphlet. And this is a passage from Absence from Felicity, the book about Helen. Any specific question involves a large number of assumptions, which inevitably limits the answer. A specific question is actually a decision about the kind of answer that is acceptable. The purpose of words is to limit, and by limiting, to make a vast area of experience more manageable. But that means manageable by you. For many aspects of living in this world, that is necessary, but not for asking. God does not use words and does not answer in words. He can only speak, quote unquote, to the Christ in you, who translates his answer into whatever language you can understand and accept. Answers are not up to you. Any limit you place on them interferes with hearing. God's voice is silent and speaks in silence. That means that you do not phrase the question and you do not restrict the answer. The only real request is for God's answer. This needs the humility of trust, not the arrogance of false certainty. And Ken goes on to say, this then is the answer to why we should not plan. We do not know what we need, let alone what we need to plan for. Thus, planning for specifics is the same error as asking for specifics. Our energies and efforts are much better placed in asking for help to forgive, for that and that alone will remove the barriers to our hearing the voice of love, whose wisdom gently guides us in our words and actions. Guilt is the problem, forgiveness is the answer. We need never be more specific than that. And of course, Ken is correct as always. And um, It's the guy named Nick Arandes. That's who it is. Nick Arandes. He's Hispanic. He wrote this book based on lesson 135, and it's all about letting go and trusting God's answers for everything. Like, don't plan your day. Don't plan anything. Just trust, trust, trust. And then Michael Singer wrote the intention experiment, where it's about letting go of your plans, letting go of your ideas of how things should be. And I had a wonderful example of this many, many years ago when Rod and I were putting an addition on our house. And um, I was trying to do what we're taught to do, like ask the Holy Spirit about everything. What would you have me do? Where would you have me go? What would you have me say? And to whom? And of course, this entails specifics, but it gives an example, I think, of how life flows easily when we do ask. And so it was a Sunday afternoon and it was kind of nice out and I wanted to be out in the garden, but I asked and I got no, nope, stay in the house, vacuum the house. And it was like, no, I've got to get out in the garden before it rains or tomorrow or later today. And the answer was no, stay in and vacuum the house. I'm like, huh, that's weird. So I did. I stayed in, I vacuumed the house. And then the next morning, I was out in the yard, and later that day, a surveyor, the guy who was putting in the addition, was meant to come over. And I was out in the yard, and I was laying down some plastic to block some weeds. And I was looking at the section of the house that we were doing. And I said to Rod, well, aren't we going to put a window here? And he goes, no, we're supposed to put a window over there. And I said, that doesn't look balanced to me. And well, because when I was out in the yard laying the plastic, Rod ended up coming out while I was out there. So I had automatically thought we were going to do windows in this certain place, but Rod came out and I said, we're going to do the window in that place, right? And he goes, no. I'm going, really? We'll take a look at it. It doesn't look balanced. And he goes, oh my gosh, you're right. Well, what I looked at later on is so we ended up putting the addition where it was more balanced. But if I had not been out there that morning doing what I wanted to do the day before, and Rod had not come out at that particular time, the addition would have been put on in an unbalanced way. And so that was such a lesson to me to listen to what God's telling me to do, even when it goes against my grain. And so this addition we put on the house looked absolutely beautiful because it was balanced. Um, but it wouldn't have been, it would have been completely off because I just assumed that it was going to be that way. And I didn't know Rod had other plans. So that's a specific example. And the other thing about the course is even while Ken is correct about the non-duality, that really all we need ask for is forgiveness of our ideas that there's a world that we need to do anything in. A lot of us can't get there. We can't go from A to Z. While we still have ego attachments, we need specific answers. And there are many, many places in the course where it says you will be told very specifically what to do. And in this world, you have needs and they will be answered. So we shouldn't guilt ourselves if we think we need specific answers, but also be aware that we will get to this place where we won't need specific answers. And we know just by going into the silence, asking for forgiveness, we learn to trust. We trust that the specific answer or whatever, that in the awareness that everything will be attended to. We just learn to trust that. And I like what Jack Johnson had said. He said, in Christ's vision, there is no how. So when we learn to trust that we are a part of Christ's vision, that we are seeing with Christ's vision, and that we're guided all the time, we don't have to worry about the how. And then the other part about this lesson that I really love is about the body. And it says, the body is in need of no defense. This cannot be too often repeated. Well, that's a pretty powerful statement. This cannot be too often repeated. So when we're worried about the body, then we're trying to defend it. But when we know that health is, that God is, love is, life is, health is, we don't have to worry about it and we can ask for guidance. And I've been asking for guidance because I'm so attached. I still have a lot of ego attachment to the health of the body. I've been asking for specific guidance with supplements and stuff like that that I've always taken. And it's very interesting because the last order that I placed for supplements, I tested these different bone supplements that I was taking. And I do muscle testing with my finger. And I still don't totally trust it, but I'm starting to because I'm starting to have some interesting results that I would not have done. I would have just gone by my ego. I have to do this. Oh my God, I'm doing this out of fear. I'm taking this supplement out of fear. And so some of the supplements that I was taking, the muscle testing was, nope, you don't need those. I'm like, hmm. And just this last couple days, I started coming down with this cold. And I know that there's something psychologically, spiritually going on with me to project onto the body and make a cold. And so I was testing, should I take an extra vitamin C? No. Should I take an extra zinc? No. And at first it was, should I take an extra D3? No. Really? I'm like, oh, I would have automatically just taken all of those right away, right off the bat. Well, what's ended up happening is this cold seems to be moving through me faster than it would have in the past if I would have started focusing, oh, I got to take this, I got to take this, because obviously I've got a cold and it's going to last this long, and defending the body. But what happened is I went into this deep, deep meditation about fears that I have, fears of reality, fears of the silence, fears of God, fears of letting go of all the things that I know. And that's clearing out the cold because the cold isn't about the cold. The cold is whatever fear of life. Sickness is a defense against the truth. And I was saying, okay, God, I know I don't want to defend against the truth. And this meditation that I had were a couple meditations of going into silence and not being afraid of the silence. Because I've noticed, I don't know about other people, but I've always distracted myself from the silence, and I think we all do. We're afraid of the silence. It's like, no, let me do any meditation that's guided or where I'm working on myself, which is the ego trying to get in there, instead of going into the silence. But I was able to do that, go into the silence, and it really shifted me emotionally, spiritually, which is the only true healing. So that's forgiving my fears, forgiving my belief that I'm this body that has to fix this cold, and going to truth. So with that, I'm going to turn over to Sharon.
Unmute. Okay, I couldn't get on there. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, Lori, that was beautiful. That was perfect. You know, you said everything that all of us would say basically is if we don't ask, we don't know anything because we're just following a pattern of thinking. And where will the pattern of thinking get us? I mean, listening to the wrong mind is a habit. And when you look at rules for decision, you realize that you have a choice in every moment to just ask. And it's not like, you know, Ken was always against the specifics because he probably heard a lot of people getting confused. And when Regina started to, you know, well, I came in, you know, she was already in the room in Pal Talk years ago. When I came in, I guess it was 2008, I guess, or 7. I'm not sure. It doesn't matter. But she was asking for specifics. And what I go with that is your intuition is always working in you. The intuition just needs, it's kind of like exercise. It's a muscle that we have to ask for. And here, you know, what I think that's been my issue all along is that I think I know something. I know who should, blah, blah, blah. And the truth is, if I'm telling the truth, I know nothing because I didn't know that I was really spirit or God, you could say, or soul. I thought when I died, I would leave my body and somehow go into, whatever, the cosmos. But we haven't left God. We've never left God. Okay. This was a tiny, mad idea. And what happened is it just blew out this insane world, and it is insane. And by the way, this process can make people even more insane because of the spiritual ego. I mean, I've had a spiritual ego at times, and it's one of these like things in us that thinks we know what's good for another person. We could never know a seeming person. There are no others. So on text chapter 6, he's saying Jesus basically about defense. Anger always involves projection of separation, which must ultimately be accepted as one's own responsibility. Rather than being blamed on others, anger cannot occur unless you believe that you have been attacked, that your attack is justified in return, and that you are in no way responsible for it. But you cannot be attacked. Attack has no justification, and you are responsible for what you believe. Now, a body can be attacked, but it depends on the house I want to live in. Do I want the whole world? Or do I want this little tiny small self that thinks it knows something and has really only gotten here or where we are is because we are a simulation. We don't, if we stopped now, we'd still be moving when we're supposed to move. Because as the puppet, a body is just that. It's moving around from the grace of the conditioned mind and the unconditioned, meaning God's mind. So it's all just happening perfectly for everyone. You cannot make a mistake on this path. And what I found was that I was so distracted, just like Lorri with the silence. Like silence for me was like, oh, as a little girl, I remember picking up shells and putting them near my ear at the ocean and feeling like this memory, right? And it was this deep silence. Or when we have fresh snow and we go outside, just look at the attraction to that. That's the I am present saying, I am, oh, it's listening to itself. All the rest are just concepts. So who is afraid of the silence? Well, I am the silence, right? So who's afraid of it? The full self, the character. And the one thing that I feel is so important, and Dove has been teaching this for years, is that you don't take this seriously. I took this path so serious. And I would think even the teachers I went to weren't as serious as I was taking it. Because remember, I'm the one that interprets everything, right? So if I interpret everything and I look around me, the only thing that could be wrong is an interpretation of what the ego mind thinks is real. So, I go back to the lesson 189 because it says it all. So does rules for decision, but simply do this. Be still and lay aside all thoughts of what you are and what God is. Do you really know what God is? I mean, okay, we'll say it's love, but do you know what love is, Sharon? No, Sharon does not know what love is. Because for the conditioned mind, we believe that love is conditional. But there is no conditional love here. It's all unconditional. And the conditions are just based on thought. So it's just so easy and simple now to look at what we believe. Like listening to the ego for me is now uncomfortable a little bit more. But again, I don't really ask for guidance. I just feel this flow in me to move a certain way now. But the whole idea is to really slow down. Slowing down, simply do this. Stay in the stillness. Be aware of the stillness. Empty your mind of everything it thinks is either true or false. Why? Because we don't know. And let me say this, Sharon believes she still knows. She will always believe she knows. The only way I can really, choose again is to just realize, do I want to be the character or not? And no, the character does not have the security. It has no wants, the truth, but the character's a wanting machine. So in every moment, we remember that we are really all God. There's no one above us. It's all equal here. And the awakening is what we are. So anyway, that's all. Over to you, Dove.
Okay. Thank you so much for that, Sharon. And both you and Lorri had wonderful, beautiful openings. I want to thank you, Lorri, for mentioning how you use asking for guidance, even to, should I go out? And the voice said, no, stay in. Wow. I'm wondering what my life would be like if I was that close to asking for everything I did. It would look a lot different, I have a feeling, because a lot of things I do are snap judgments that really don't mean anything. And it's absolutely the ego who makes the snap judgments. So we're on lesson 135. And of course, that's my favorite paragraph in the whole course is paragraph 18 of lesson 135, which says, I put it up here on the board, basically, what can you not accept if you knew that everything that happens, all events, past, present, and to come, are gently planned for you by one whose only purpose is your good? And I always look at the paragraphs 9 through 17, exactly where you started, Lorri. You said, let's start in paragraph 9. And paragraph 9 starts off like, a healed mind doesn't plan. It receives wisdom from above. Now, today I was listening as Prudence was playing today's lesson, as she always plays the lesson at the very end. Just before she completes, she plays the daily lesson. I'm listening, and I actually heard something I never realized was there, but obviously I didn't really read it correctly the first time. That's why the ego just skipped over those particular parts. The only reason you plan is you want to be in control. And we all know who the controller is in our life. Is the ego. The ego wants to control things. So it plans things, but it plans things based on the past. Well, the last time I did this is what I did. And so you're still living always in the past whenever you plan for the future. So the past and the future really are one and the same. It's called time. And then it tells you that time is the vast illusion. So no wonder it says in my mantra lesson 25, he says in paragraph 5, it's crucial to your learning that you understand that none of your goals mean anything. Of course, all my goals come from the past. It comes from time, and time is the illusion. It's crucial to your learning that none of your goals in this life mean anything. Well, of course not. It's the ego's goals. I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do that, better health, better this, better that. It's all about how the ego sees you. Well, you're a body, baby. You're a body. No, I'm not a body. I'm not a body. Sorry about that. So a few things that came up as I was looking through this. First of all, Maya Angelou, who we all know, Nobel laureate there, poet laureate, says, love is that condition in the human spirit so profound that it allows us to forgive. That's interesting. So it's the real miracle here is love. The real miracle is the love that inspires the miracle. It's the love that inspires the forgiveness. I mean, if you're unconditional love, forgiveness is simple. And, obviously it touches on that controlling ego thought. Well, how can I forgive so-and-so because what they did? No, actually, there is no doing in love. Over here, this comes from the Course in Miracles. Where is it from? Well, I can't. It's actually. I can't see. It's in part 2 of the Course in Miracles. It says the separation was not an act, but a thought. Oh, you mean there was no doing? It was just a thought? Of course. Everything in the mind is just a thought. There was no physical separation. It was a thought. That's why a thought can be let go of. It was just a misunderstanding, misguided thought in which the thought said, oh my God, this is what happened, and became like it actually happened, and it never happened. The separation never, isn't that the atonement? The separation never happened. It was just a thought. It was just a belief. And you know how I feel about belief with a big lie in the center. Yeah, it wasn't the truth. And the truth will set you free. So here's what Ken Rapping says about today's lesson. He says, when we focus on the body as either the problem or the answer, we deny the mind, which is the only, whenever you see the word only, listen, it's the only thing that can save us. Not Jesus, not the Holy Spirit, not God, not A Course in Miracles. We alone can save us when we choose their help, meaning exactly as you do, Lorri, ask for guidance in every moment of now. That's what trust is, by the way. We go through the 6 steps of trust. You will not continue beyond step number 5, which can take a very long time, without asking for guidance in everything that you do. That's total trust. TRUST, to rely upon spirit totally. No, not 99%, totally 100%. Therefore, the bottom line, this is Ken Wappy again. Therefore, the bottom line is choosing a different teacher. Huh? I mean, basically, that's all Ken ever says anyway. What's his favorite lesson? Lesson number 5. I'm never upset for the reason I think. If you can put your finger on why you're upset, that's not it. Absolutely, that's not it. Because only the ego can put its finger on, oh, that's it. No, that's not it. The bottom line is choosing a different teacher. That's why you're upset. You're upset because you chose the wrong teacher. You chose the ego who controls your thinking, and you're asked to step back and let him lead the way. It's lesson 155. Yeah, that's why ACIM Gather is all about taking your place among the teachers to develop trust, So I guess I'm at that particular place. Well, I think I included, oh yeah, this is from Maya Angelou again. So she says, love is that condition in the human spirit that's so profound that it allows us to forgive. So yeah, I mean, love has no opposite. Love is all encompassing. It's unconditional. If you're the love of God, if you are the love, you let all things be the same, because they are all the same. That's what love is, the sameness, the equality. And this is a comment on Maya's quotation. It is the love that allows forgiveness. What allows mistakes to be corrected allows all. Only our perception needs correction. Only our perception. And what is perception but an interpretation? And you have to ask the question, who is your interpreter? If the ego is doing your interpreting, you got it all wrong. Total mistaken belief, lie. That's why in chapter 21, section 2, it says, everything that seems to happen to me, I have asked for, and I have received exactly as I have asked. And then says, deceive yourself no longer. Stop deceiving yourself that you're helpless in face of what is done to you. Yeah, you've done it to yourself. Acknowledge that you are mistaken, and all effects of your mistakes will disappear. All effects, because you're dreaming. You're in a hellish place that's not real. When you wake up, you say, my God, it was just a dream. You got to laugh. Take nothing in this world seriously, really. Love you. Back over to anyone who wants to take it.
Thanks, Dove. Well, that was really good. It's always really good. I love Thankful Thursday. So what you were saying, it's only our perception that needs correction, and that the mind, we alone, the mind alone can save us. So true. And that's why I've been afraid of the silence. And I'm so grateful to the Course for telling us that we have this fear of God, which you can say God is the silence, God is the stillness. I've always hated the word awareness. I don't like to use that word hate. I've always disliked the word awareness. But then I read something recently comparing pure awareness to pure love. Oh, well, I can handle that. The word awareness felt bleak to me. It felt, I know, like I don't feel the emptiness or the nothingness as bleak. I used to, like when I would read Zen, I would think, oh man, that's empty, that's bleak. But now I've experienced it enough to know that the emptiness is the fullness, the nothingness is everything. But that word awareness was hanging me up. And so when I read, oh, pure awareness is the same as pure love, well, that's pure God. And so now I'm okay with that word awareness. But as I go into the silence, you could call it stillness, you could call it God, you could call it spaciousness. I can see that fear of God. And it's like, wow, this is what the Course is talking about. And I have felt that and noticed it for some time. But really now it's like what this section is saying, stop asking for specifics. And I put the specifics out there. It's like, God, you know what I want. But you know what I want even more than any specific, which is to know myself as God. So getting into the silence and getting away from the words and sticking with it has been very interesting. It's bringing up stuff. It's bringing up like, okay, uh, do you really want this? And it's like, yes, I do. Yes, I do. We all do. We all really want that. But we get sidetracked and we get distracted and we get caught up in the things in the world, which are there to distract us. That's why the world was made. And Dove, you just wrote on the board, love is not an emotion. That's so important to know that love just is. Love is the substrate of this entire world. And as I've been saying that when you want only love, you will see nothing else. I said that for many years, coming from the ego standpoint of what it thinks love is. Oh, well, I don't love everybody, so I must not be applying that very well. But the ego can't love. If the ego is saying, I want to love everybody, well, that's an impossibility. But love just is. And as I let go of ego identity after ego identity and attachment after attachment, the love that is there. It's just simply there. And it's the same thing as with the body. It's like I don't need to defend the body. The body's not there. The body isn't real. It's not what I am. And as this lesson says, the body will be a healthy, serviceable instrument for every useful purpose, as long as you do not ascribe to it roles that it cannot achieve. And that line always confused me. It's like, what do you mean by roles that it cannot achieve? And some of my friends in one of my course groups said, well, maybe that is things that the ego wants the body to perform, but is not no longer in the higher plan. Like, oh, athletics or sex or whatever it might think that it needs to do in order to be happy. But basically, if I just go to the place of, whatever's going to happen is going to happen. I don't have to arrange it, control it, plan for it. I just have to develop that trust that everything is happening for your good. So, okay, Dove, you wrote on the board, yes. Ken Wapnick says the same. The love of God is pure awareness. Love is not an emotion, it's pure awareness. Ego can't love because it needs control. And awareness is lost if something is blurring the picture by controlling the remote. That's cute. So, yeah, I find that with my brother-in-law who said, I think you need this book. And he sent me Michael Brown's The Presence Process, which I may have mentioned this last week or 2 weeks ago. I had that book about 15 years ago, and I put it away. I didn't like it because I couldn't do it. Because it's all about just breathing in the silence and not having any words and being aware in the present moment. And the present moment scared the hell out of me. I don't want the present moment. I didn't want the present moment. Now I do. But back then I didn't. I wanted to arrange my future the way I thought it should look. And that was going to make me happy. And that was going to make me safe. Well, we see how that works. It never works, not for any of us. So getting to this place now where, wow, I just want to meditate with nothing rather than these guided meditations. And again, it's okay to have a guided meditation if that's what you're guided to do in that moment. But it's a surprise to me to be doing these meditations where all I'm doing is focusing on breathing into the heart. That's it. I'm not thinking anything. I'm not trying to release anything, fix anything, or compare anything, or do any of my million techniques that I have. It's just breathing. It's like, and I could never do that before. Never. So that tells me that things are moving along in a good direction. I'm reading Adyashanti's book, The End of Your World, which was another book that my brother-in-law said, oh, I think you might like this. So it was so funny because I'm paying attention to these synchronicities that are happening, and I'm so grateful for them. Because what happened was I think I might have said this last week too, and my Course in Miracles group, the leader sends out texts about different spiritual things and quotes from teachers. And she had this quote from Adyashanti, and it was, the end of the seeker is the beginning of reality. And then she had this quote from Adyashanti about, make no mistake about it, enlightenment is not this happy, fun thing. It's the undoing of everything you thought. It's a destructive process, which is what the Course says, right? So then the next day, my girlfriend called me in a panic, like she always does. And I always say the same thing to her. I say, you're mistaking yourself as the ego self. Get back to your higher self. Does your higher self worry about this? No. So I sent her that quote. The following day, this guy that I'm interested in, and he's interested in me, he says, have you heard of this thing of that the seeking itself is the problem? I'm like, oh, well, yeah. I've been knowing that for quite some time. And in fact, my, Deb, she just sent this text to everybody. And it was all about that. So this is synchronistic that you're saying this. Well, later that week, I got the book that my brother-in-law said, I think you might be interested in this, the Adyashanti, The End of Your World. And there on the back cover of that book was that exact quote about the end of your world, the exact quote that my course leader had put in the text several days before. So I'm looking at this and seeing the neon flashing lights that Spirit is showing, like, you're doing this, you're going through this, you are letting go of all the ego, you are so-called awakening, even though there's no ego to awaken. Awakening, being awake, or the awakened state, or love, God, stillness just is. But you're on the right track, because this book talks about what people go through after they recognize that the world is unreal, after they recognize that their own personal separate self really isn't it. Then what happens? Because very few of us are like Byron Katie or Eckhart Tolle, who get it all in one fell swoop and then bam, we're awake. It's usually a process. So this book by Adyashanti, The End of Your World, has been really, really helpful and validating for me. And so I'm just so grateful for these synchronicities, and it's just thank you, God. And so I'm starting to sit there and go, okay, I'm doing this muscle testing. For the longest time, I'm like, I don't know if I trust this. Maybe this is just ego, but I'm starting to trust it. I'm starting to trust these things. And again, not that I haven't had trust in the past, but the trust, again, just like everything that we're doing, our awareness goes to a deeper level. Our trust goes to a deeper level. Our letting go of ego and being abiding in the true self goes to a deeper level. So it's always the same thing. It just gets more deep, more expansive, more profound. So Dove, you had written again on the board, awareness is perfect sight. Ego uses its shady lens to see things differently. My way. Yeah, it sure does. And that's why I wasn't trusting, because it's like, I know that I have said many, many times in my life, oh, I'm sure that I'm being guided to do this. Well, got myself into a morass. Um, and I wasn't. It was just the ego, the spiritual ego, trying to have things its own way. And that's why I'm careful about the muscle testing now, or I'm careful about, really, is this really coming from Holy Spirit, or is this just the ego? And then you write on the board, Dove, seeking is just a judgment. I'm not there yet. Yeah. And how many times I think probably all of us have said, I'm not there yet. I'm not there yet. And the truth is, we're all there, because there's no ego to not be there yet. And we know that when we settle in, when we get quiet. So, and then the ego advises, keep seeking and do not find. Yes, go to one more conference, go read one more book, do one more technique. And those are all, helpful as long as we need them. And then there comes a place where you don't need them, or you let them go, or you use them from a place of knowing that that's all they are techniques, and you're not the doer. So you can use them. The Holy Spirit can use them on behalf of its purpose rather than the ego's purpose, which is to keep seeking, to keep working on something. And what I noticed earlier this year or last year was that when I was getting better and I didn't have anything to work on, it was like, oh, what am I going to do? I don't feel like I have any issues right now to solve. I don't have any psychological stuff to journal about. Oh, now what? And fortunately, I noticed that that was the ego just wanting to seek some more, and that I didn't need to do that. But that started more than a year ago, and it's still only now that I can actually get to the silence and then just do the breathing on the silence, because I still couldn't do it back then. So seeking is a judgment. I'm lacking. I need more. Yep. Thanks for putting these things on the board, Dove. And then Sharon, you said some things. You said, who's afraid of the silence? Yeah, only the ego, the separate self, can be afraid of the silence. And that was what was coming up again for me, was something that I go to and then I run away from. I go to it, I run away from it. And again, it's the same old issue, but in a deeper way. And it was Rod. It was like, I recognized I am holding on to the specialness of a character called Rod. He was my savior. He was my hero. He was, and now that he's dead, he's more of a saint, right? That's what we do with people when they die. We make them saints and we forget all the crap that happened when they were in bodies. And I recognized that and I thought, I can't do that. I've got to stop doing that. And I've had that thought many times, but now it's like, you better do it. You had better do it. This grievance, which is holding on to how come Rod died the way he did? I don't like it. It wasn't good, blah, blah, blah. Even though it's not as strong as it used to be, like when I came on this show 2 years ago, when I came back from Mexico and I just had a total meltdown and said, I don't believe this crap anymore. I can't even come on here anymore. It's maybe 10% of that, but it's still there and I'm still holding on to it, and I'm still holding on to the body and still holding on to the history, which is all ego. And as I'm meditating, it's like, let it all go. And I can see the ego part. I don't want to let it go. I don't want to let that go. I don't want to let go of those memories. I don't want to let go of the belief that Rod was a special person to me and Rod was so influential in my life. Well, you know what? I do want to let all that go because that's holding me back. That's holding me in the ego identity, those memories, all of that. So, like, I have this picture of Rod, and it's very interesting. I just ordered it the other day. I got a picture, and I put it out on next to this symbol of him, this eagle. But the picture is him showing, like, he had just won at a ping pong game, and he's got his arms up in the air, like, yeah, I just won. But in the background, it was taken at Namaste Village, and in the background is the Course in Miracles lesson for the day, which was lesson 158 at the time. Today I learned to give as I've received. And I love that lesson. And it pointed out to me, it's like, you know what? Christ's vision has one law. It sees no one as a body. And that lesson also states time is a trick, a sleight of hand, a vast illusion in which figures come and go as if by magic. So here I order this picture of Rod, but the message from Spirit behind it is, don't think he's the body. Don't think that body was a symbol for you of awakening. That body was a symbol for you to come home. That body and that seeming history that you have with that person was a figment in your mind, just like the whole world is a figment in your mind. Stop making it separate and real. So here I'm ordering the picture because I want to specialize Rod. And in the background with that board in the background with that message is like Spirit saying, don't do that. You're holding yourself back. And that's what I didn't want to face. And that's why I got sick. But as soon as I faced that and said, you know what? I can't do it anymore. I'm not doing it. I've gone back and forth, back and forth. It's like this time, no, I'm done. I'm not holding on to it anymore. I'm going into that silence. And guess what? I got better. So I'm going to turn that over now to Sharon.
Well, that was great, Lorri. I don't even know if I have any more to say. You've said it all. The whole point in this lesson is that if we're defending anything here, we're covering up our blocks to love's presence. That's all that's really here are concepts. And then, and when I look at the room I'm in now, that's my mind. That's the mind of this character. And I'm on a computer and you're in my mind right now. But there's really nothing to defend. It's just developing a new habit of just really being with what is and watching the times that I say, it is what it is, and me just ignoring that. Because that's the whole point. The ego is blocking the light. You can't block it permanently, but it blocks it to a place of concepts that you cherish, that I believed, even the images, of course, your friends, your family. But, when we look at all of it, it's just objects in our mind, right? That's what they are. They're just objects in our mind. um, it's kind of like you can't rush this process. This process is going at its own pace. And we are all in Oz, if you want to call, being home Oz, because that's just a great example of how consciousness has truly been helping itself in this movie. Because remember, we aren't even people, these, people that we think we are, we're consciousness. And of course, consciousness is still the domain of the ego. So waking up is not any extraordinary thing. And even if we're going back completely to our creator, what difference would that make? Because we're all the same. We're just this awareness. There's nothing else. And to let go of everything has to be done by spirit. It can't be done by anything but spirit. And spirit knows exactly when this will be. I have seen myself go through shifts and I didn't do one darn thing because the character's not there. The undoing is spirit's just getting these blocks out of the way, right? I was actually contemplating the other night, okay, this is a movie and it's already over. So not only haven't we been in this world, but we're we're watching and we, let me speak for myself. I'm very mesmerized by the movie and I fall into it because it's just different for the Son of God to experience something so profoundly. It's opposite. It's all about spirit doesn't oppose anything. That's the whole point. So to resist something is just another thought. But to say, I truly don't want to oppose it, can I welcome it? Can I welcome everything into my experience at this point? Because what is the trade-off? The trade-off is love. There isn't anything higher ever than love. So, coming to the Course in Miracles happened, I don't know, years ago. But when I realized, I met this wonderful man when I moved to Altoona. He was a Native American. He's deceased. But he said to me, he knew my story, that I had lost everything and I had a, dramatic story. He said, Sharon, you're here for the right reasons. You wouldn't be happy with anything that you had because of what you are. And that was a message from spirit. You are peace and seek that because everything else is just hogwash. And it is. But, let's face it, at least for this character, I like playing in the dirt for as long as I could until finally it came to me that it's just creating more tension and my experience in this body. So just take it all. Take it all. Now, that doesn't happen to me through the day all the time. Of course not. If I'm not reminding myself, the believer of the thinking mind is still believing it. But that's our decision maker, right? So when we make a decision to choose again quickly, we don't even have to go into the story, just choose again. It will drop the thought. Right? So it's just a matter at this point of watching the play and enjoying it as it is. And what do I mean by that? Accepting it all as it is, because it means nothing. Anyway, over to you, Dove. Thanks, everybody.
Wow. I wrote that down. Sharon says, we are all the same. We are awareness. Wow. That's the same as equality we talk about. It's, the mind thinks you're looking at faces. No. Like the part in the Course where it says Jesus was a man who saw the face of Christ on all that he met. And Bev is saying, how can I see the face of Christ? The answer is very simple. Jesus was a man who saw innocence in all that he met, and he remembered God. So Sharon is saying the same thing. We're all the same. We are awareness. And what is awareness? It's just the clarity of being, aware, and nothing moves awareness, nothing. And it came to me that we all know Rafi's thing on we're either seeking approval. One of Dove's things, we're seeking security or we're seeking control, right? It just occurred to me. That's the ego's biggest needs. Ego has to be secure, so it has to control. And it's always looking for approval. That's the ego. The entire ego spectrum is just seeking approval, seeking control, seeking security. I mean, it's so insecure. It doesn't even know where it came from. It's afraid of something that's larger. It knows that there's something larger than itself, and it's afraid of it because if it ever came close, it would be the destruction of the ego. And the whole ego thing is I want to survive, baby. I want to live, baby. I can only live if I can control your mind so that you keep seeking. Yeah, seek and do not find. Busy out your mind so you don't know you have a mind where you can choose again. And that's the whole idea of why we're upset. We're listening to the wrong teacher. You got to laugh at this stuff. This stuff is really a joke. If you're not laughing, it's just you keep on thinking this stuff is serious. No, you take anything in this world seriously, you are the ego. The ego says, hey, baby, I got to survive. You got to laugh. You simply got to laugh. And with that, I'm turning this. Hey, how you doing, Thomas? How are you, Thomas? Love you. Okay. Mickey, Zoma, Lorri, Sharon, Glenn, all the ships out at sea. I love you all.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
All right. Thank you all. Thank you, guys. I guess you're complete. So I'll go ahead.